reach out in
Hey,
the
our
chat
audio
or
was muted,
comments.
so hold on here. Let's real quick restart. Bing, bong, boom. And hola, amigos, and welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid.
Together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, and Boolean buddies.
Yeah, we're going to be creating an animation from scratch live today using HTML, CSS, and React.
Whoa.
So not just JavaScript, React.
That's wild.
So we're happy to answer any questions you may have. So please reach out in the chat or the comments.
Yes. This is what we'll be creating, but before we get any further than that, I want to do a little shout out. Our Patreon, the main way that we support Keyframers, and you can participate in this as well. We've had two new patrons, Victor and Bastian. So thanks so much for becoming an amigo and supporting Keyframers through Patreon. If you want to join them, check out patreon.com/keyframers, and that helps us out a ton.
Yeah, thank you. We won't lay you down.
We might.
Still trying to.
Sorry. But today's animation, keyboard interactions in Framer by Jur. This is a nice little gallery of sorts with like a little keyboard interactive bit that we're gonna try to create with React here, and probably use Flip for controlling some of the animation there.
Yeah, and so a quick note about this. This was created to basically teach about Framer Motion. And if you're not aware of Framer Motion, it's a really good library for React and animating user interfaces in React. But we're going to try to do this without any libraries except React.
Yes, that's exciting. That's very exciting. So yeah, did just a basic amount of scaffolding here. Not a whole lot going on. You're in there, so that's great.
Yes.
And one before we get too into it. So one thing that David was asking was like, how do you do React on CodePen? And this is, a common thing. React's a common library. People want to use it. So I thought I'd show that really quick. You can see up here at the top, I've got two import statements. Typically, when you're using React, you just import React from React and import React DOM from React DOM, and then you install Webpack, you add 1,000 dependencies and NPM and all of that goodness. But it's much simpler in CodePen. You can just click this little tooltip that appears, replace invalid imports, and it's going to add a prefix to those packages. Just skypack.dev, cdn.skypack.dev, and that's like kind of an online bundler of sorts. Basically, they take npm packages and serve them as ES modules. So this is now native JavaScript ES modules, and it's actually importing these in the browser and running these in the browser. And it makes using packages on CodePen really simple and easy. You don't have to worry about a package.json or anything like that. You can just import and use Skypack. So that's a really great convenience there.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It is. All right. So let's see. So I put together a little array of slides here. Animation, you know what, we can do CSS, we could say HTML, we could say React there. So just different images in there and a title in there. We'll get to adding all of that. And right now we just have one component, an app, and then it's got it's looping through those slides to create images and mounting that with React DOM. So not too much set up here, just kind of getting past the basics there. Nothing really happening in HTML, and then just a little bit in the CSS to get us our whole gallery layout.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts here. So in the original animation, you could select each of the images using the arrow keys. And so that's just like in programming, you break those into subproblems, right? First, you need to just have some way of representing a selected image. And then you have to have some way of changing that selected image. And then you have to have a way of using the keyboard to change that selected image. So that's just one part of the problem. The next part of the problem we'll tackle after that is layouts animation, because these things grow and shrink depending on whether they're selected or not.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the tricky part of this animation is the layout is actually shifting. And there's ways that you could fake that with transforms and everything like that, but it starts to get really complex because they're changing like a finite amount, and with scale, it's really hard to calculate an exact, like, okay, if I scale it down this much, that means there's going to be 20 pixels available, and so I need to shift everything over 20. No, like that kind of math gets really squirrely. So we're going to use Flip to do that same kind of effect, but make it nice and performant.
Yeah. So what I did is I imported some hooks. I wonder if you could do that. Hopefully that works. So I'm actually new to this whole magical, you could import things in CodePen now. Like me and CodePen go way back. Like I remember where you just manually added your libraries or imported CodePens or whatever. This is fancy. So let's see how this works.
Yeah, that should work. It's standard kind of destructuring. So that should all work in there. We've got an error, but I'm pretty sure that's just
me typing.
Right.
So I added just a little bit of state just so that we have something that we can play with and add styles to. We're setting the selected index. So right now I'm just going to say the 0th, which is the first image, is going to be selected. And so we're going to just have that selected equals oh, yeah, thanks, Shaw. So we have index equals selected. Now, here's the thing. This is going to give you true or false for data attributes. So one pro tip over here, when you're using data attributes, you have to, if it's truthy, then whatever, it's fine. If it's falsy, you have to do or undefined.
Or null.
Or null,
yeah.
That works too. And so that's going to tell React, don't even bother putting that data attribute on the image itself.
Yeah.
And so I guess we could add some styling to, let's give these a class name,
Yeah.
Class name equals image, whatever.
Yeah, and if we want the titles, like we'll need to wrap them and do all that as well. But we can get into that in a bit.
Shoot. Okay, and had selected. So I'm just going to say this is going to. Okay, OP1.
Transition opacity 0.3 seconds, linear. Sure. So now, yeah, we're starting out with the first one. You click them.
Start.
Great.
All right, cool. So yeah. Now that we have the use states, like this isn't very interesting unless you could actually change the state. So yeah, that's what Shaw did. You could click them and you could change the state. But we also want to let the keyboard control that. This gets into more, I don't want to say advanced React, but just more involved React. So we're going to be using an effect.
Oh no.
And this is for the keyboard presses. So yeah. And we're going to give it an empty dependency array. Now, this is one of the strangest things about React hooks. You have to add that empty dependency array to say, I don't care like when this effect or when like, I don't care what other state or changes there are in here. This effect should run once and it should clean up once. And so the effect that we're going to add here, we are going to add an event listener. So I'm just going to say document.add event listener, and let's call it key press, right? Key press. And then we get the event. So let's just, for now, let's log the events.key. And let's press some arrow keys and see what happens.
Use effect is not defined. You didn't extract that from React here, so I'm just adding that to the destructuring at the top.
To get auto import. I'd like that, Shaw.
Let me do a console.clear at the top.
Yeah, good plan.
Yeah. And so because everything is running in an iframe, you have to actually click inside and then do a key press. But I don't know that key press is actually the event. I think key down is what, what we're wanting here.
That always gets tricky. You have to know, for special keys such as escape and enter and tab and whatever, it's not always key press. So I guess key down is what you need for... Yeah, I wish there was a cheat sheet. Like, key press doesn't work for arrow keys. Like, yeah.
There's probably some documentation out there, but
right, so we have...
So basically, event.key is going to be arrow right or arrow left. So we can just, do a nice little switch there.
So event.key, and let's say case, case, arrow key dot
just arrow right.
Arrow right?
Yep.
Okay, so if it's arrow right, we should increment the index by, we have to do our fancy map that we always do.
Yeah,
which is
selected.
If it's at the end of the array, you want it to, go all the way to the...
Right. For now, we'll do that. And then case arrow left. We'll worry about setting the bounds there in just a...
I think what you could do is just... All right, so we have slides, so slides.length. I think that will just work.
It's more complex than that. I'll have to mess with it.
And let's not forget our defaults break. So how do you auto format this again?
Right click in the top, format JavaScript. Sorry, click the menu in the top and format JavaScript. All right, so I'm clicking in here. I'm using my arrow key, arrow right. That's working, but selected is kind of locking into that one value because I think the use effect is only happening once, and that selected is not updating. So what we can do is actually use function for set selected, and then return that value there, and that should work. And same for down here.
Not even half an hour in, and we ran into the stale closures problem. This is why hooks are weird.
Hey, your logic is working. That's great.
Oh, thank goodness. So now we could do the same thing for that, but I think it might be a little bit...
It might be more than that. Yeah, I don't... we'll need to... Let's console.log selected and see what it's coming back as. When that happens, and we can remove this, that. Okay, so selected is 0. Yeah, it's -1. So yeah, this is where it gets complex because we have to add slides.length plus selected, and then do it with the modulo. What is it? Modulus? Modulo?
Modulo.
Modello. There we go. Okay, so now it's working. And that's just a handy little trick whenever you're trying to kind of keep within the bounds of an array, and you want to loop from left to right. That makes it really easy.
By the way, that's a really handy way of avoiding the stale closure problem. There's really two ways that you could do it. There's using an inline function within your closed-in function over here, because that function is going to run and say, I need to grab that selected value, or I don't know what you're doing here, set selected. Because that's already grabbing it.
Right.
Another thing you could do is actually put selected inside the dependency array, and so that's something that the React team and documentation recommend. What that's going to do is it's going to rerun this, but it won't work as is right now because that needs to be in an event handler, and so that's what Shaw is doing right now. And that way we could clean up after ourselves.
Right.
When we then you could just remove that event listener.
Right. With React hooks, use effect, this is the proper way to do an event listener. you register it, and then you return a function that removes it. So whenever this component is removed from the DOM, if that ever happens, then it will remove that event listener, so you don't end up with a lot of errors about trying to set state on an element that doesn't exist and all that junk.
Right. So now let's change layouts.
Oh boy.
How should we do this? So we have the grid template columns here, which are just giving all of those an even width. But how do you think that we should make it grow?
Well, so
in scale. Well, we're not going to use scale.
So instead of display grid, we can switch this over to display flex. And so let's do this down here, max width. And then we'll do flex 001 auto.
I have no idea what that means.
Flex
shorthand scares me.
Yeah. So why is that not working? So image. Okay, so we do want a wrapper here. We can go ahead and do that really quick. Div, and then move the class name up here, move the key up here, and move basically all of this up here except for the source. And then will you close that div for me? Thank you. And then so our image will move back to doing this in here, that in here. That should give us what we want. Is it?
Not quite.
Okay.
I think it's because you have this max with 100%. That might be
so that's what we want for the image to scale. So let's say width 100 width here, just to be sure that it's not the container. Okay, it doesn't seem to be. So display flex. Okay, so we do want shrink. That's right. Okay, there we go. All right, we're golden.
Still have some overflow. Oh, it disappeared.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So with display flex, basically we're only on one kind of grid, or one kind of axis here, the horizontal axis. I've got a gap that works with flex now in most modern browsers, and then the image is a flex item in there. So we're saying we want it to the shorthand here. Flex grow is 0. That means we don't want it to grow at all. This second property here is the flex shrink value, so we want it to shrink. And auto is just kind of the flex basis. So that's what those properties kind of evaluate to. So if we did here flex grow instead, like 1, let's see how that affects it. It doesn't. 1.2. I can do 1. That is selected. 1.2, 1.5. Nothing?
Nope. Maybe you have to set flex shrink to 0 too on that one.
Okay.
There you go. So now we just need to do a little bit of centering, and we're golden.
Yeah. So up here, align items. Center. Yep. Okay.
Cool. So we have the smooth opacity transition. We just don't have a smooth layout transition. And because we aren't scaling it, we can't just add a transition on transform or something like that. We're going to have to get a little bit crazier. So yeah.
There we go. All right. So yeah, this is where flip is going to come in. This is yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. I have something. So let me just copy pasta something. So what I'm going to copy pasta first is the stuff that we've done in so many episodes, slightly altered. So this is our flip function, and time will tell if we actually need these request animation frames just because of the way that React works. It schedules things sort of on animation. I don't know. It does things so that things flush when when it's supposed to, for the most part, I think. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But this flip, instead of having a do something, we're going to say, I know what the original position of the element is, figure out the current position. So here's the element, just figure out the next rectangle. And so actually this is really pointless, and this is badly formatted. And then we add all of our stuff like the dx, dy, dw, and dh. Mostly we'll be using the dw and dh to animate. Actually, we'll be using everything. And set flipping to true. And then on the next frame, remove flipping so that we could smoothly animate it the inverted way. So the goal is to just get all of this in a hook. So just believe me when I say this is just an adapted version of something that we've done in many, many previous episodes. And now we're going to do it in hook form.
Yeah. So how would you drop this DOM manipulation thing in there, knowing that, you know, React doesn't like you to touch the DOM?
Well, we are going to be using a custom hook. So let's just call this use flip. And what we want to pass in is a DOM ref. So a reference to a DOM node. So I'm just going to have ref here. And inside, I'll show you what this copy paste is. I did a quick experiment before this show. So actually, we don't need any of this. Actually, all right. So before we make a custom hook, and this is typically what I teach too. I teach some courses at React Training, but you put the hook directly in to your thing, and then later you extract this into a custom hook.
Yeah. So
a lot of things going on here. We have a ref, and that's a ref for the thing that's actually growing and shrinking. So a reference to the actual DOM node. So yeah, we need to put that somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're going to.
So kind of the issue here may be that what we're actually transitioning is going to be the images.
Yeah.
When you do a ref on like a map like that, do you have an array of items?
Oh, no, you don't. So do you know what we should do? And this is just a nice bit of cleanup. We should make custom components. So instead of just having everything inside of this app, let's have a image. I'm going to call this function image. We could add props and whatever later. And yeah, so each of these images are going to have that. So I guess we should, got the right idea. So we're going to copy paste that and put it in there. So I guess this is going to be just thinking through the API. We have image source equals slide.image, and we're just going to have a selected prop. So selected equals index equals selected. Oh, also a key. I think I call it selected.
Or undefined.
Image title selected. All right, so I guess we should have a title as well.
Yeah, that's just if we get to it, but no biggie.
Slide.title. Now, did you call it source, SRC?
You
have
did
an image.
Image, yeah.
Image equals image.
We'll do source there. That's fine.
I've seen so many components like that, like query equals query if you've used Apollo.
Yes, unfortunately. So
cool. So it successfully does not work.
Right. So we don't have our ref on here. We need to add that ref like that. That should do it.
Our images. So we have source equals slide.image. Oh. Classic mistake. So we have to return this.
Oh yeah.
I make it all the time.
Caught reference image is not defined.
What do we call this? Function image. It is defined. It's right there.
Well, that's something else. Else image is not defined. Slide.image. Oh, sorry, the key should be source and the image should be source. There we go. There we go. All right, so we're back to where we started.
Okay, which is always good. All right, we have another error. Oh wait, you already fixed that. Image is not defined.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have two refs. Let me just explain this real quick. We have a ref for the thing that's growing and shrinking, which is this div, and we have a rect ref. This is just to keep track of the current rectangle. Let's see. If we don't have a current rect ref, then we set it. So we're grabbing it from rect.current ref.current, and then we are flipping. So this is going to do all of our DOM stuff. It's not going to actually cause any re-renders or anything. All it's doing is it's changing the custom properties, and it's changing the data flipping attribute. And we're also setting the current rectangle to be that, the next one. So just to show how this is working, let's add a, I'm going to put and after, and we're going to just have content as the source, just to see that things are working. Let me position absolute this, top 0, left 0. I don't know what else. Background, black, color, white, which it should probably really be color white. Yeah, but anyway, so now
attribute source.
Oh, why did I do that style?
Okay. There we go. Hey.
All right, we have some things happening, which is really good. Yes. Notice when you go back and forth, I don't know if you're doing this, but when you go back and forth between the first and second one, you see those numbers change? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We could use that.
Yes. So I've already imported some of this here. This is kind of a common setup we've used for these in the past. So I'm just adding data flip on there so that this should trigger. Yep, there we go. We got kind of working trigger here. Yeah, so essentially we're adding the transition transform. When we're data flipping, it's transition none, and then we apply the this, and we can apply var flip scale, I think is what we needed in there as well, and that's kind of doing it.
I had to fix those nans eventually, but whatever.
Alex in the chat is asking about the ... props that I did for image. Is there any downside to doing that almost by default? What do you think, David? Do you have any preference there?
I think that there is. It's too implicit. So when you do ... whatever, it's basically like handing someone your credit card and being like, just be responsible, right? Uh-huh. You're allowing whatever it is where, like, whatever thing that's telling you to spread the props, you're allowing that thing to take complete control over your element and put props everywhere and whatever. And the other downside is you can't override props. So let's say that this thing, for example, adds a class name, but let's say you want to add your own class name. You can't reconcile that. It's like one or the other. You can't have both. So what I like to do is I'd like to be more prescriptive and say, okay, attach these props onto your component instead of just having a free-for-all, spread. Ryan Florence, who created React Router, calls these peanut butter props because you just spread them, and it wasn't meant in a good way. So I don't know. I cringe whenever I see them. Sometimes it's necessary, but I don't know. It's too implicit for me.
For me, like I like the DOM, and I like being able to like add things like a data attribute or something like that from a parent that may not need anything else, like as far as like some of the other props that are passed down. So I'd like to be able to like just send through something like that to make it easier to style from the parent. Typically, if I'm doing class name, I'll do like a class name merger through, you know, some library, CXJS or class names, to merge those. But I always want to extract the props that I want to directly reference or use, like class name or something like that, and then spread the props. And if you do the props at the beginning like this, anything that you set after that is going to override it. So that's going to help with any conflicts there. So if I was passing down data selected from the parent, it's going to be overridden with what I want here. So yeah.
Okay, so
you know, there's nothing. It's all kind of what works for you. Hey,
there's two schools of thought. I just think that libraries that provide that as a primary API, it's not the clearest way to do it. Like Shaw said, appreciate the DOM. If the library says you have to add these specific props, then just do the legwork and add those specific props rather than spreading them all out. So
it seems like it started working. Did you change something?
I did. So one thing we forgot is the transform origin top left, and that looks like a classic transform origin thing. So
yes. Okay.
It's working. And so let's actually, I sort of want to make it more pronounced. You know, we have a flex curve 1.1, maybe make that 1.25.
Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe even bigger. Let's embiggen it.
Embiggen it.
Did you know that is now an actual word? Dictionary.com added a bunch of new words. I scroll Twitter too much, but yeah, that was one of the things I saw. Embiggen is a word. It means the same thing as enlargen, which is actually a word.
So 1.5, we also need to take this down to shrink 1.5, and that'll...
All right.
Wow, good gravy. Yeah. So let's do 1.3 and 1.7. So yeah, kind of getting into some ratios there. Nice.
This is awesome. So yeah, just the one tiny thing I want to fix is that initial transition, which shouldn't happen. Let's see.
Initial transition.
Yeah, so you know when you first run this and you might need to reload or something, it gives that weird like zooming thing.
It's running fine.
Oh, okay.
Here.
I guess what I really meant was the nans.
Oh yeah, that doesn't seem to be causing a problem.
True. Yeah.
Comment that out.
So if ref.current. Oh, I'm a dummy. Okay, so this should be null as well. Let's see if that fixes things or breaks things.
That should. Sorry, I commented out the pseudo element. Let me get that back in there. Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
So
this is awesome.
Yeah. That's really great.
That was fast.
That was. That's awesome. So what we have so far, we've got a keyboard controlled gallery that's selecting an image, and those images are being responsible for their own flipping here with hooks. So that's quite cool, I would say.
Yeah. So tell you what, why don't you add titles and I'm going to add the keyboard keys
because
that's what they have in the original animation.
Yes. So yeah, I'll get some titles in there.
So I'm going to do... So CodePen doesn't have like an autocomplete for, you know, like an Emmet style thing. That would be cool.
For what?
For React JSX.
Within React, no, I don't think Emmet works there yet.
Yet. Keyword.
New stuff being added all the time. You never know what'll make it in. All right, so we'll do class name equals title.
Also, if any Framer Motion people are watching this, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah.
We're sorry.
Just showing you that it is possible, you know, in native JavaScript, or not native JavaScript, just React, vanilla React, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. And sorry if the audio is getting noisy. I've got people outside mowing
the lawn.
Yeah, classic.
Which, I mean, hey, that's a blessing. They weren't able to do that a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Can't mow snow.
Somebody should work on that.
Yeah.
Okay, take that off for now. Yeah, now that's transitioning better. Oh, but the title itself is scaling strangely. Why is that? Because it should be. Oh, okay. Because we're transitioning the image and not the title. Hey Carlos, big fan of animations. Not as skillful as you guys, but greatly enjoy all you do and build. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Great.
It's really nice to hear.
Yes. Right. So this is something we run into frequently, where if we're transitioning the parent, then that can cause a bunch of issues. So one thing we can do here is do transition. Is by setting these on the children. Inherit. Do that, and then leave that off on the parent. Now, whoa.
Sorry.
Oh, and then we need to transform origin top left. All right, so we could group this a little bit to make it easier. So image and title, and we'll do inherit, and then we'll do let's see. That here, then we'll add a actual data flipping and data flipping transform
padding
title and image.
Let's see how that works. I'm beginning to use viewport units more and more for, like instead of my rem.
Yeah.
Thing. So I think that solves our whole big debate, rem versus m. How about just viewport units?
Yeah.
I think something went weird. Oh, there you go. You fixed it.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a good, test of our use flipping hook, use flip hook, which we actually didn't extract into a hook, but we could, and we could put those on the actual labels, so the titles.
Yeah.
Which I think is what you're doing.
So I was trying to do it in just CSS, but that seems to be causing some trouble. So I do think we need to move that into individual components there. Right. Let's see. Use layout effect. All right, so we can abstract this to function use flip, and then turn ref and move this to here, or is it best to give it a ref? I assume. That, and then we can use flip with the ref here. And let's just see if that works. Comment this out. Bing. Okay, partially working.
Hey, partially working is better than not working.
So let's get
Yeah,
that back in here.
right.
There we go. Okay, so I got our flip abstracted, our flip hook abstracted,
Oh, nice.
and so that's working. So now we can say function image title, and then copy this here, const ref, use ref, and then we'll say return your span here, image title, use title, yeah, that, title, turn, span, same equals title.
So what are you extracting right now?
So I'm moving the title to its own component so it can independently flip.
Okay, good call.
And
good
then
call.
This here. All right.
So yeah, speaking of abstracting, we should probably, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a use key down hook. That's honestly as much grief as I give hooks. Like, it's really great of having small composable pieces of logic. You know, it's, yeah, pretty good.
You break something?
Yeah, always. Always.
Okay. All right, so we'll say that we can transition in there. That should all be working. Once David is done breaking things.
Yeah, almost done breaking things. That is. So we could get rid of that. Honestly, this didn't save too much code, but it's a handy hook anyway. So we have use key down, which gives you that key down event, and then you could do whatever. Did something break?
Something is broken. I don't know what. Our hooks up here. On key down. You're passing that through correctly. What is breaking? Title is not defined. All right, that's my problem here. So title.
They are really going to town on your lawn.
Yeah, hopefully my noise gate is catching it for the stream.
Okay.
That's
there is no lawn, people listening. Shaw lives surrounded by sand and rocks. It's Texas after all.
Okay, so that should work. Why is that not working?
Yeah, there is
Titles.
a red thing in the CSS.
Titles.
That's
in the CSS. What is
or that's where I saw the red thingy.
Expected. What am I not?
The danger circle.
Yeah, is something not closing? It looks okay to me. Transition. Transform. There we go. All right, we are professionals, everyone.
Is that me?
Okay.
Something it just showed and disappeared.
On key down is not defined.
Oh wow, I'm silly. Sorry. You know, I probably shouldn't have abstracted that. So we have use key down, on key down.
Set key pressed. What is set key pressed? Oh, okay. You're using that for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all right, where is my on key down not defined? Let's find out. So use a.
Oh, that needs to be gone. There we go. Okay. All right. Our flip is not working, but that's surmountable. Let's see.
It's
Okay,
it's
data.
still just going to black for. Oh wait, no, just kidding. It's not.
Data. It looks like it's flipping there, but let me make sure. Okay, so let's move data flip to the image. That'll help there. Oh, okay, okay. Image is animating. That's good. Title is still not. Data flip class name equals title. Let's see if the title is receiving that. So data flip equals true. Yeah, it doesn't look like that's working. Did I pass? Oh, okay, I didn't do the ref. Yeah, so it's important to reference things so that React can recognize it. There we go. Okay. I think it's a little weird. The text transition there. Do I just need to do? Oh, I guess it doesn't scale, so I can just do the translate for the text, because that shouldn't be changing size. Okay, yeah, that'll work. Let me just do that. Add a special case here. So for title, we'll do, and data flipping, we'll just do var. Jeez, sorry. We'll just do var flip translate, and that should help. Yeah, there we go. Nice and smooth. Let me close this console. So we got. Okay. Uh-oh, it went black again. Did you do something?
No. In fact, it should be working right now, I think.
Okay.
This actually is not working as I wanted to. Whatever. And that's because I don't know.
What's weird is the flip is working when I let's see, it's working sometimes with the key down, but it's not working consistently with key down, which might be because of the DOM manipulation with the keys. Let me just remove that key pressed bit for now, just for a moment.
Actually, no, that shouldn't really be affecting anything.
Well,
really.
So I'm pretty sure what it is the
oh, it's causing extra updates.
Right. And so the element's re-rendering and calling flip again. So what we could do is like pass through in use flip, pass through the dependencies of sorts, so that the use layout effect is only called when certain things are dependencies, when certain things are manipulated. So for example, use ref, but that's not going to work for like.
Yeah, I don't know. For now, we could just not worry about the arrows.
Yeah,
the arrow keys.
That's fine.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
They're there. Exercise left to the reader or the watcher if you want to.
Yes.
Figure that out. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that does bring up an interesting point where like our current solution works if the only thing you're doing is navigating through the images, but as soon as you do other updates, which will also cause re-rendering, then that could make the animation end prematurely. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But hey, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Div. Let's see. We don't even need that. Do this. I'm just adding a little div wrapper for the image itself, so that the border radius transition isn't a thing. Should manipulate fine. No, it's still because it's scaling. Yeah, that's something we always have to get around. That's rather annoying.
Just it being weird, but yeah,
it's okay. We'll leave it at that for now. And yeah, let's remove the key press stuff for now, just to have a nice clean dealio.
Yeah.
And yeah, there we go. Okay. So yeah, we're in a good spot here.
For sure.
All right. So what do we want to break down for this one?
Oh, a few things.
Oh, so many things.
Yeah, the arrow keys and flip. I think those are the two big things.
So arrow keys, yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, let me, before we get into the breakdown, a question from Carlos. Is it feasible to replicate such flip animation control on Angular or Svelte? I've heard that Svelte has a lot of this built in. I haven't personally used it for that, so I can't speak to it, but yeah, we've heard that before. Angular, I really don't have any experience with, so I don't know at all there. But I imagine a similar sort of setup will work. It just makes it it'll be implemented very differently. So yeah. Anyway, so let's look at breaking things down. If you're watching live or watching the full thing here, just stay with us. We're going to kind of do some summaries, so it's still some really good information, kind of an overview of some of these techniques. So stay with us. Hola, amigos, and welcome to Keyframers. I'm Stephen Shaw.
And I'm David Khourshid.
Let's take a quick look at how we're doing keyboard control for this React-powered gallery using React hooks and a few other interesting bits. So we've got our React app set up, and then we're calling this use key down hook. That we're then using to kind of manipulate whatever image is selected, and some fancy array logic there to loop through so that when you reach the end, it goes back to the start. It makes for some fun animations there. But David, break down that use key down hook.
All right, so use key down is not an extra library that we add or anything. It's just we're using effect. So with use effect, you have to remember three main things. The first thing is our actual effect. And the second thing is disposing of that effect. So we're adding an event listener and a key down. And so whenever a key down happens, we're just calling that on key down callback with that key down keyword event. And when the component unmounts, we are removing that event listener because it's important to clean up after yourself. We also have nothing in the dependency array. We probably should add on key down, but that's always going to change. So whatever, don't worry about it. Because we know, at least for this one, it's always going to be the same key down. So the key here is that whenever a key down happens, that on key down callback is going to be called. And that's exactly what we want to happen, because down here, we're listening for the arrow right and the arrow left event, and we're using those to just change the selected image.
Yeah, and arrow right and arrow left, that's just built-in browser. The event.key returns logical things like that. If you've used key code in the past, that's always a pain because it's like 56 or something like that for arrow right, and all these weird numbers for them. But yeah, since we're just passing through a function here, we could use something like use callback so that it doesn't change and keeps things a little bit cleaner. But this is a nice, simple use effect hook that that should only mount once when the element is initially mounted, and will clean up after itself when the component is removed. So yeah, that's a super cool tip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a look at how to do flip animations in React and with hooks, interestingly enough. So in our simple React app here, we've got where you can click or use the keyboard to kind of navigate through these, and that change is actually changing the layout. So if we look in our CSS here, we have our image class, and then whenever it is selected, it gets this data selected attribute, and triggers a flex grow, so that it becomes a bigger item in this flex container. And normally that would be a problem for performance, and that would cause a lot of reflow and and that kind of stuff, especially if it was animated. But what we've done here is implemented a use flip hook that calls our pretty standard flip function that we use in a lot of our episodes. That's basically just applying a data flipping attribute and some CSS variables to it, and then removing that data flipping attribute on the next frame. But it gets a little complicated because React doesn't just let you have access to the DOM right away. We have to use references. You want to show us that, David?
Yeah, so references you could consider the same as instance variables, like back when we were doing class-based components. So, oh yeah, so we have that use ref over here. Yeah, let's talk about, I guess, the ref inside of use flip. So yeah, remove that over here. So basically, ref is a way of updating state without telling React that you updated state. And again, the reason you don't want to do that is because you don't want React to say, "Oh, something changed. I have to re-render." You're, just keeping that quiet from React. So we're using the rect ref here to keep track of the last known bounding client rect of the elements. And then we, whenever we flip, we change that. So our flip is going to get the current rect, and it's going to do all the delta calculations to do the inversion, and then it's going to update that rect. So that's what's happening there.
Yeah. I mean, is keeping track of the rectangle even really necessary here? Because we're not actually doing like a check. Like ideally we would do, rectref.current equals get rect, like to prevent the flip from happening. But does that actually do anything for changing the, triggering the effect to run?
Well, I mean, whenever we call flip, it is going to be triggered. But the reason we have this recref.current, this represents the last rect. So not the.
Oh, okay. I see. You're
passing
passing through the first rect there. Yeah, this is a little bit different from our standard flip function.
Tiny bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is helpful to keep that reference there. And with use ref, that data persists across the various renders of whatever is calling this hook. So yeah, that's awesome. So with the actual element that we want to flip, we need to get a ref. So that's what this ref is here for image title and image. And then we pass that ref to use flip to use as like the element that needs to be manipulated. And we attach that ref to the element we want to flip. And I'm also using a data flip attribute on the image and the title itself to help with the styling of that and the animation. And so thanks to our hook, it's going to call flip on that whenever something triggers a re-render of that component. For instance, the data selected attribute changing. It's going to call that and apply all of these CSS variables to it, much like we're used to. And then this is basically what's happening to trigger that animation. So for data flip, we've got a transition of transform and a nice cubic Bezier that David's applied, and a transform origin of top left. That's very important. And then whenever that data flipping attribute is on for just one single frame, we set transition none, and then we invert the transform. So that is why it appears like it's animating and kind of growing, but it's actually shrinking in one frame and then growing to its full size. So that's a handy technique, and you've got these CSS variables here that do all the fun calculations for you that you can apply in different ways. For instance, the title isn't actually changing size, so we don't want the scale on that. So I've got a little condition up here for the title. When it's flipping, just do the translation, because the size isn't changing. The font size is the same. So it's just going to move position into place.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a handy little function that you can copy and mess around with in your own React components. You'll need these kind of three things right here, and a little bit of CSS that you can copy out and use, and yeah, have some fun.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Your long guy is having some fun out there.
He is. Yes. Thank you, long guy. David, will you do the full outro for us, I guess?
Sure.
I'll mute myself.
So you can watch the full process of creating this animation for a deeper dive into each technique on the full live stream linked right below. Leave us a comment if you have any questions. And also, our show is supported by our sponsors, CodePen at codepen.io, CSS Tricks at css-tricks.com, and viewers like you. And also, you could pledge at patreon.com/keyframers and subscribe to our channel for more great content, and links are available below. Thanks for watching. Adios, amigos.
Adios.
Adios.